the self-Atman and its true nature. The concept of the self-Atman is one of the fundamental tenets of Vedantic philosophy, representing the eternal, unchanging, and indivisible essence of an individual. The Upanishads, which form the core of Vedantic thought, assert that the Atman is not different from Brahman, the absolute reality. This idea is central to Advaita Vedanta, which teaches that the perceived duality of existence is merely an illusion created by ignorance and avidya. Unlike the body, mind, and intellect, which are subject to constant change, the Atman is beyond time, space, and causality. The Bhagavad Gita to point to three states: na an amchindi anti-shastra me, na an amdeti I piva, meaning weapons do not cut it, fire does not burn it, emphasizing that Atman is indestructible and eternal. The self is oft uncompared to space, just as space remains unaffected by the objects within it. The Atman remains untouched by worldly experiences. Vedantic scriptures describe the self as Satchitananda existence Sat, consciousness Chit, and Blissananda. Sat signifies that the self is eternal and never ceases to exist. Chit indicates that it is self-luminous, illuminating all experiences, yet remaining distinct from them. Ananda denotes its nature as boundless bliss, beyond suffering and limitation. Despite its infinite nature, the Atman appears limited due to the influence of Maya, the cosmic illusion which projects an apparent world of duality and separateness. This illusion creates the false identification of the self with the body, mind, and emotions, leading to a cycle of birth and rebirth samsara. The classic Vedantic analogy of the rope and the snake illustrates this point, just as a rope may be mistaken for a snake in dim light. The self is mistaken for the ego due to ignorance. When true knowledge dawns, the illusion disappears, and the Atman is realized in its pure, infinite nature. The Mandukya Upanishad explores the nature of the self through the analysis of the four states of consciousness: waking Jagarat, dreaming Swapna, deep sleep Sushupti, and the transcendental state Turiya. In Turiya, the self exists beyond all dualistic distinctions, as pure, non-dual awareness. This realization dissolves the false notions of individuality, freeing one from the illusion of separateness. The path to recognizing the Atman involves rigorous self-inquiry at Mavikhara, as advocated by sages like Ramana Maharshi, who encouraged seekers to ask, "Who am I?" This question leads to the negation of all that is not the self, revealing the pure awareness that remains. Additionally, spiritual disciplines such as meditation dhyana, devotion bhakti, selfless action karma yoga, and the study of scriptures sb adaya and the realization of the self by purifying the mind and dissolving egoic attachments. The process of realizing the Atman is often obstructed by ignorance, desires, and attachments which reinforce a false sense of individuality. Vedanta teaches that liberation moksha is achieved by transcending these limitations and recognizing one's true nature. The Bhagavad Gita 2.7's Iro compares the enlightened being to an ocean that remains full despite rivers constantly flowing into its embolizing estate of complete inner contentment, unaffected by external circumstances. This equanimity arises from abiding in the self, which remains untouched by fluctuations of joy and sorrow. The realized sage then, mukta, sees the entire universe as an extension of the self, experiencing no distinction between self and others. This state is described in the Chandogya Upanishad through the Amahavakya great saying, Tativiyamasi thou art that, signifying the non-dual nature of existence. The knowledge of the Atman as Brahman eliminates fear, sorrow, and bondage, leading to supreme peace and fulfillment. Just as the sun remains unchanged regardless of whether it is reflected in clear or disturbed water, the Atman remains untouched by worldly experiences. Those who realize the self no longer identify with the transient aspects of life and instead abide in their true nature as pure consciousness. Spiritual practices such as meditation, selfless service, and devotion help in dissolving the ego and allowing one to rest in the awareness of the self. The Mundaka Upanishad describes the liberated being as one who, having known the self, becomes free from all bondage and limitations. This realization is the highest goal of human life, as it brings an end to suffering and reveals the infinite, unchanging truth. The journey to self-realization may take years of disciplined practice, but once achieved, it dissolves all illusions of separateness and establishes one in the indissoluble oneness of existence. In this state, there is no longer a sense of I in you, but only the infinite blissful awareness that pervades all. By cultivating detachment gya, discrimination viveka, and devotion to truth, one can awaken to the realization of the self as the ultimate reality. The teachings of Vedanta provide a direct path to this realization, guiding seekers beyond the illusions of the material world into the unshakable peace of the self. In the end, the knowledge of the Atman as Brahman is not just theoretical but must be experienced directly, leading to the ultimate liberation and eternal bliss.